Since I've been down here in South Florida, I've been following real close the continent of Africa. There's a lot of change, a lot of growth, a lot of development is going on in Africa that I don't think a lot of people in the United States is aware of. But nonetheless, we're going to be, if we're not already, going to be affected by the changes that are going on in Africa. It's been predicted with certainty that Africa will be the next leading continent to lead humanity into the future. The global West is falling, America, Europe, and the global South is what they call it, and I didn't know they called it the global South, but what they call the global South is Africa, South American countries, Asia, and the Latin countries are what they call the global South. And Africa is leading the global South, and the global South will be the blueprint at leading the world into the future. And Africa is taking that lead. I don't follow the national news, CNN, Fox, NBC, and NBC, all that. I don't listen to any of that. I don't know what's going on in the world by means of those news outlets. But what I do look at are the African and independent news channels so I can stay up to date, and knowledgeable about what's going on in the continent of Africa. And I have learned so much, and I have had so much corrected in my psyche that I thought I knew from watching these channels. There is so much about that continent that has happened that I don't even think that even in our best teaching of the continent, I think a lot have probably been not covered. But there's so much that hasn't been covered in common knowledge about this continent that I've learned, and it's made it so interesting and fascinating to know that this continent is rising under the conditions that it has been. And we all know that Africa has been downtrodden for millennia. That's no secret. But the ways that they have been downtrodden and the resilience of the people is something that's unbelievable. And I just didn't know half as much as I thought I knew about Africa and the African people. Ibrahim Traoré is the president of a little country in Africa called Burkina Faso. And this man, what he's doing to Burkina Faso is the catalyst to what the rest of the continent and the countries of Africa are doing to liberate themselves from colonization that has completely ravaged the country and has taken a hold of the people's psyche. What he's doing is revolutionary, and I'm not going to go into it, but check out the channels that, or just Google it, or check out the channels that I put on this video, and check out any other channel that you may find about Burkina Faso or Ibrahim Traoré. But just a small summary of what this man and his country is doing. They've kicked out all the colonizations. They've kicked out France and any other the colonizations that's been robbing their country since the beginning of who knows how long. For millennia, they say it's been. And the other countries in the continent are following suit. They're kicking out the United States, France, England, and all these other colonizers that have been taking advantage of the continent for millennia. And they're rewriting the policies of their countries. Essentially, what they are doing is they're taking back control of their countries, and they are telling the United States, France, and anyone else, if you want our precious metals, if you want anything off this land, you're going to have to come in by our means and play by our rules, and we'll be equal partners. You see, all of the precious metals and raw materials that's needed for the future, for cars and for smartphones and smart tablets and laptops. A lot of the things that we use to take on into the future, Africa is the continent that has most of these precious metals in abundance. So what Burkina Faso and Abraham Traoré is doing is saying, if you want our metals, if you want to move into the future with what our continent holds, you're going to have to do it by our rules, or not at all. He's not negotiating, and he's not playing no negotiating whatsoever. It's either our way or no way. And we're seeing China and we're seeing Russia actually becoming partners with Africa and not a subordinate, but a partner, 50-50 partnership. They're making treaties and they're rewriting the whole way to do global business. A new way to do global business. Burkina Faso paid off their entire debt of their country. I don't know what the debt was. We can always find that out. But whatever it was, they paid off their debt. And how they did it was, after they kicked out France and everybody who was taking advantage of their gold, they themselves took their own gold and refined it and used their own gold to pay off their debt. And these countries, Russia and China, they see Africa as partners. They see Africa as equals. The Western media is not going to tell you that. The Western media wants us to continue to believe Africa is the downtrodden country, the downtrodden continent that has always been. The Western world don't want its people to learn that Africa is rising, and Africa will be, not just hypothetically, will be the leaders of the future. But the question remains is, will America, the United States, and France and these other countries, will they actually see Africa as an equal, or will they be left behind? Because when you can't get what you need to move your country into the future because it's in Africa, that country is going to start to decline. France is already starting to see it, and it's probably happening already here in the United States. I'm not that involved in it, so I don't really know, but I'm believing that it's already starting to happen here. So will the United States and France and any of these, England, anywhere else that haven't taken the initiative, because they all know that Africa's leading. They don't want the country to know, and they will never broadcast it in their media. But the leaders know this. But will the leaders ever make it known that they're aware of this and actually take the initiative to pair up with Africa as equals so the world can move into the future together? Or will it have to be America and France and these other countries? Will they have to fall, and will they have to completely decline before they actually take initiative to connect with Africa and the rest of the world that's moving forward? I don't know, but this is something that I'm following because I'm very interested in it.